use the from and to also. From and to also. Assume that it is not there. From and to that special tag. And you put the addresses in different order. That means instead of sender's address in that particular place, you put the receiver's address. Instead of receiver's address, in that particular place, you have put the sender's address. What will be happen? Once you post the mail, you will be receive that back to you because you mistakenly put your address as the receiver's address. So the requirement, the what we have to understood, we have to understand whatever the standard or common understanding among the networking people, right? Then practice it. We have to have understand about the common standards among the networking people, and we have to practice it. Otherwise, it will not work. It will not work. So, such standard has been introduced. Right? VLAN trunking related standards has been introduced by IEEE. So standard number is 802.1q. Right? 802.1q. Trunking protocol now widely implemented. So actually there are few others. One example is Cisco InterSwitch link. That means Cisco also provided standards, proprietary one, for that trunking purpose. But that thing is applicable only for the Cisco networks. This one is across the globe. Any switch can follow this. Anyway, Cisco switch also should support this. Otherwise, Cisco might not get the entire Cisco might not be attracted by the entire customer domain. However, in addition to the IEEE, it follows the ISL as well. Actually, the uniqueness is many actually adapt the Cisco networking intermediate devices because of the added advantage with the performance and the less maintenance, whatever the good features with the Cisco. In that case, they can consider the ISL. In that case, they can consider the ISL because their performance would be high. Right? They may address the even hardware specific requirement also with the ISL, where IEEE might not be considered at that level because IEEE has to focus on the common approach for the trunking. Cisco can be specific. So once we get into the specific thing, then the choices that we have to make is very limited. Here there are many choices. හිතලා බලන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ කොමන්ට් දෙයක් අපි ලියලා දැම්මොත් අපි හැමෝටම හරියන විදිහට මොන හරි කන්ඩිෂන් දාලා මේක වුණොත් මේක කියලානේ මේ practices introduce කරන්න වෙන්නේ. මෙතෙන්දී එහෙම නැහැ. even hardware වලට ගැලපෙන විදිහට ISL introduce කරන්න පුළුවන්. So with the ISL, trunking approach is introduced. IEEE is also trunking approach is introduced. Okay. So, any question? Now you have heard about two different approaches. One is IEEE 802.1q for VLAN trunking. The other one is Cisco ISL for trunking. In that case, all the switches should be Cisco switches, where platform is dependent. The environment is dependent. This one is independent. Even in the one network, there can be Cisco switches, Huawei one, Ericsson one, whatever the other brands can be there in the same switch, same environment. Right? Then moving forward, VLAN trunking uses tagged frame to allow multiple VLANs to be carried throughout a large switch network over the shared backbone. That's what we already discussed, and it is understandable now. We will just compare with our postal mail. The postal mail allow you to send the mail. Okay, thank you. This one sharing me the Cisco installation setup. I will just click on that and try. Yeah, till that happen. Yeah, just always compare with the normal postal mail system. Postal mail system is the shared backbone. Once the particular sender want to send a postal mail, they use the specific destination address or receiver address. With that one, the letters are directed to specific location over the shared medium, shared postal service. Manual configuration and maintenance of VTP on the numerous switch can be challenging, so it is also understandable. We got the understand behind the VTP's client-server environment, which provides some added advantage, or configuration is much more easy with such environment. Those are actually initiative of the VTP. Benefits of the VTP is that once the network is configured with the VTP, many of the VLAN configuration tasks are automatic. Automated environment. VLAN technology provides network administration with the many advantages. Among other things, VLAN helps control layer 3 broadcasts. That is a very important factor, because when you introduce the VLANs, you are introducing the multiple broadcast domain. In one switch, usually one broadcast domain, but if you introduce 3 VLANs, as a result, it introduces 3 broadcast domain. Number of VLANs that you introduce is equal to number of broadcast domain in the switch. Otherwise, in the switch, there is only one broadcast domain. When we introduce the VLANs, there are many broadcast domains. If you introduce 2 VLANs, 2 broadcast domain. If you introduce 3 VLANs, 3 broadcast domain. Likewise, depending on the number of VLANs, the number of broadcast domains are introduced. So once we have that isolated VLAN, it eventually improves the network security. Right? So that is also important, because once every 15 users of the network, which there is no, with that switch, there is no VLAN, then all 15 users belongs to one network. So they can access the resources in their computers. Each other can access resources in the computer. So it is not acceptable, especially when the 15 users are doing 15 different stuff. So we better introduce the VLAN, then eventually 15 users are divided into 3 different groups, assuring the security. So that is the way logically introducing the networks with the initiatives of the VLAN. Our VLANs have important limitations. They operate at the layer 2, which means that devices on the VLAN cannot communicate with the users on the another VLAN without the use of routers and the network layer addresses. Yeah, it is obvious. That means once we introduce the VLAN, then isolated networks are introduced. Isolated networks are introduced. VLAN 10, 20, 30, isolated virtual local area network. VLAN 10 cannot communicate with the VLAN 20 because VLAN 10 is a one network, VLAN 20 is another network. Those two are not connected. Those two are not connected. If we want to connect in between them, it just follow the way that we connect maybe LAN 10 with the LAN 20. To connect the LAN 10 with the LAN 20, no virtual, right? LAN 10 is one physical switch, LAN 20 is another physical switch. And multiple computers are connected with the LAN 10 related switch and LAN 20 related switch. Then if you want to establish the communication in between those two different groups, definitely we have to use a router, right? Definitely we have to use the router to introduce the communication in between LAN 10 and LAN 20. When it becomes the VLAN, the concept is still valid. Concept is still valid, even though it is a VLAN, right? Virtual LAN. It is, even though it is the virtual LAN, it is also can be, it is also considered as separate network. So if we want to introduce the VLAN 10 introduce the communication in between VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, definitely we have to use the router. Router involvement should be there for inter-network communication, inter-VLAN communication, right? Even we can address, or we can assign the network layer address when we introduce the layer 3 enable VLAN switches, we can do that actually. Those initiatives are there. Let's go through that point. That they operates at the layer 2, which means that devices on the VLAN cannot communicate with the users in the another VLAN because those are two different VLAN, similar to two different LAN, without use of the router or network layer address. Yeah, it is essential to have the router for the inter-VLAN communication, and the it is essential to have the network layer level address. It is possible to assign the network layer level address. There is no issue because the once layer 3 involvement is there, it is possible, but the involvement of router we cannot ignore. We have to have layer 3 device involved. Actually, VLAN features has been introduced partly incorporating the VLAN 3 features or functionalities. However, inter-VLAN communication related inter-network communication related features have not been adapted with those VLAN capable switches. Only the VLAN capabilities are adapted. Okay. I think you got the idea.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then, so about trunking, history of the trunking. Yeah, trunking simply sharing the transmission media. Trunking කියන්නේ transmission media share කරගන්න එක. As a result, history of the trunking goes back to the origins of the radio and telephony technology. With the radio and telephony technologies, very old days, they also use the trunking. It means they just share the transmission media. Might not be this tagging mechanism. With the VLAN, we just talk about the tagging mechanism for trunking. But in the radio and telephone technologies, very early days, they also did trunking, but some other approaches. Trunking is sharing the same media for different purposes or different users. Even purpose can be accommodated. Or for different users also can be accommodated with over the trunk because the tagging is the different. So some other ways or some other ways were used by early days radio and telephone technologies. In radio technologies, the trunk is a single communication line that carries the multiple channels of the radio signals. Right, single communication line, but it carries the multiple channels of the radio signal. As far as you have the better understand about the wireless networking, you can understand the different situations because different frequencies are used to broadcast the radio channels. Those frequencies are not overlapping. We have arranged the frequencies in the way which are not overlapping each other. So multiple channels are introduced at the different frequencies with the slight variation to accommodate multiple broadcasting stations or multiple broadcasting channels. For example, Sirisaran, maybe I cannot remember, 101. Theran FM runs on the 78.8. Likewise, there are a specific number which is refers to the channel of that frequency band. Frequency band එකක් තියෙන ඒකේ මොන specific frequency එකද මගේ channel එක මට ඕනේ channel එක use කරන්න. ඒකට ගියාට පස්සේ අපිට ඒක ඇහෙනවා. So if we just change the frequency, we may move with the Dharan FM, maybe Shakti FM, whatever the channel you prefer. But I wanted to emphasize every time, even though at the moment you are listening to the Dharan FM, Sirius FM also up and running, right? That channel is also running. As you specific on your frequency, you just filter down the communication or whatever the broadcasting is done from that channel. Slightly change the frequency mean change your channel. Instead of listening to the Dharan FM, you may be moving with maybe 3 FM, right? Every channels are now broadcasting, but you just have the control and apply the filter and capture only one channel for listening. Otherwise, voice will not be clear enough for you to even hear. So that is also trunking because at one time, the same communication channel is shared with the many, which is the purpose of the trunk. In the telephone industry, the trunking concept is associated with the telephone communication path or channel between 2 points. Yeah, that means we had the public switch telephony network, So which is based on the multiplexing. With the multiplexing, what is happening? So telephony network. So with the telephone network, public switch telephone network, that means multiplexing was used. Now actually, even fiber is accommodating that communication. At early days, top of that, they're just moving forward with the with the requirement of the data things. They anyway, whatever the now initiative with the improvement of the network, almost all the initiatives are shared, right? Shared communication. So trunking is there. Mainly they use the tagging. But it says telephone industry, the trunking concept is associated with telephone communication path or channel between the 2 points. Right, okay. Telephone's communication path channel between the 2 points. That means I'm here, you are there in your home. We try to communicate to each other. There is a telephone communication in between two of us. One of these 2 points is usually central office. Shared trunk may also be created for the redundancy between the central offices. Shared trunk Shared trunks may also be created for redundancy between. That means if they want to have the redundancy, they may maintain some other link. Is possible, right? It is also possible. However, how they provide the trunking, that means I think the connectivity in between the central office and the others, maybe branches, may have shared initiatives from the branch itself to some other point, maybe unique, not sharing. After that, that thing may be shared. So you can visualize the environment where the shared media can be useful in even in the telephony network, because those links are not dedicated. මම ගිහිල්ලා මමයි අපේ ගෙදරත් එක කතා කරන්නේ එක වයර් එකක් මෙහි ඉඳන් අනුරාධපුරයට අදින්නේ. There are some shared initiatives, but the shared initiative, and at the same time some mechanisms should be introduced to have better switching or better switching in between the different channels, moving from one to another, right? We will discuss further on that. Like this. There are telephone networks. These are in the home, so nearby access multiplexes. So every if you have the fixed line at your home, you have access. Your telephone has the access to the nearby access multiplexer somewhere or other. There is a connectivity. You may have heard the term called loops. Some cases it says loops are not available for you to provide fixed line. That means the multiplexer or the ports are connected with the telephone networks, right? So telephones are connected, trunk line, then central office. So this is the trunk line. That is the previous statements. About the previous statements, visualizing the trunk line. So central office and access the multiplexer. So trunk link is there. So this trunk link is for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 telephones as per this diagram, right? Multiplexer allow all 5 to communicate in the shared way, right? So I think you got the point. Moving forward, creating trunks by using the frequency division multiplexing. So you have heard, right, in the wireless how you are going to do the frequency division multiplexing. It is the way that different telephone channels or different radio channels and television channels are running at the different frequencies. So frequency multiplexing is there. At one time, one frequency is allowed. At some other time, another frequency is allowed to transmit. Likewise, the frequency switching in between the different frequencies, allowing to transmit the signals for all the frequencies over the shared media. Right? So multiplexer allowed to combine multiple signals, right? Here multiple frequency related signals comes. Those are combined through the multiplexer, and the shared media is used to transmit all. Combined in the sense not frequencies are the actual mechanism I cannot exactly remember, but these frequencies somehow combine in the sense that accommodating all the frequencies comes through the multiplexer and communicated through this shared link, right? Shared link. Finally, communication happens. You may not here while you are listening, while you are watching the Therana TV, you may not or the screen might not be changed to the cisco TV because cisco TV is running in the different frequency. Once you get into the Therana TV related frequency, you can see only the Therana TV because even though it is just multiplex here, properly demultiplex here. මෙතෙන්දී එකතු කරන එක වෙන වෙන මේව කරලා different frequencies වලට දෙනවා මෙතෙන්. So that thing happen at the receiving end. So things will not be confused or complicated. However, trunking concept is very clear because every radio channels, although they are just broadcasting at different frequencies, we can receive everything, but depending on our requirement, we just listen to the one frequency referring to the one particular channel. Right? The concept that had been used by the telephone and radio industries. Telephone and radio industries was then adapted for the data communication. The history is with the telephone and radio infrastructure. They just use the different frequencies and broadcast in the telephone networks. They just use the multiplex and demultiplexing operations and communicate each other. That helps to think on digital or digitally how we are just going to do that. That is the just I would say which point? Anyway, I just wanted to say that might be some sort of a initiative for the data communication. People want to just think one step further how we just tackle with the digital streams with those initiative with the telephone and radios. Right? An example of this is a communication network is backbone link between the MDF and IDF. MDF stands for main distribution frame. IDF, which is the centralized thing. I think I have the image for that. I will show you that. Yeah, MDF is the just backbone representing the backbone network. Actually, MDF, this end is IDF, and the other end also IDF. IDF stand for not remember exactly. I think I have put it somewhere. It is not there. This is main distribution frame. This is what is that? Can someone search for that? MDF. But IDF is just closer to the workstations. IDF is closer to the switches, workstations. Workstations are connected to these switches. Right? You can see the image, right? Can you see the image?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will just search for IDF versus MDF. Intermediate distribution point. IDF, intermediate. This is the main. This is the intermediate. So with this placement, where the IDF and MDF switches are placed, right? You can have some understanding. These are the some sort of a basic switch relatively, but these are the advanced switches. By the icon itself, it says some advanced features are there. So this main distribution related features are just incorporating the multiple IDF. But IDF, its features are incorporating workstations and MDF. මේ දෙන්න අතරේ තමයි තියෙන්නේ. So I would say if this is the deans, this is heads, this is you, then you are just incorporating with the heads. Heads mean idea. Head incorporate with the dean. Then as a dean incorporate with the heads in this end, at the same time heads in the other end. Come up with the conclusion and convey it to the IDF. IDF convey it to the students. So these are the different layers. Student layer, heads layer, and dean's layer. Again, heads layer, students layer. Likewise, just ඒකෙන් තේරුම් අරගෙන network වලින්ම හිතන්න, but for initial understand I just brought down that example. So with that you can understand dean is not going to communicate with the students. Dean is not going to communicate with the student because dean has some other duties, but dean always keep in touch with the heads. Heads communicate with the students, right? All the red lines represent the communication in between the dean and head. Blue lines, communication in between the students and heads. So backbone is composed of number of trunks. Yeah, red lines, right? Backbone is composed of the number of trunks. That means the red lines in this environment. Red lines in this environment. The same principles of trunking is applied to the network switching technologies. Same principle of trunking mean the old days use of telephone and the radio or frequency-based communication applied for the network switching technologies. A trunk is physical. Trunk is a physical and logical connections between two switches across which network traffic travels. Both physical, some sort of a logical, because logically they just filtered out. Physically link is there, at the same time logically, physically one link, logically multiple link. I would say like that. Trunk is physically one link. Eka cable එකයි, logically multiple link. Eka cable එක පේන්න තිබ්බට නිකන් ඇතුලේ multiple cables තියෙනවා වගේ. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් පාර දිහා බැලුවොත් පාරේ දැන් අපි in the goal road buses are there. Then four-wheel vehicles are there. Two-wheel vehicles are there. If we are going to categorize the traffic over the goal road in that way, buses, other four-wheel drives, four-wheel vehicles, two-wheel vehicles. Then one physical communication channel, within that we can find three different traffic, the way we introduce the traffic into the groups. Some may say that different approach, but in this particular way, I just introduced buses, four-wheel drives, and two-wheel drives. Three wheels are not counted. Some may question, so I will add that one also, three-wheel drives. Are there any one-wheel drive? No. Okay, so we have to analyze the traffic and group them accordingly. In the same way, we can introduce the VLAN also, analyzing the traffic and group them accordingly. So this is what actually happening. VLAN 1, 2, 3, what we refer as VLAN 10, 20, 30, because usually we are not using VLAN 1 actual practical cases. That is the default VLAN. We are not going to touch with that. VLAN 10, 20, 30 might be the best way to explain any example. Then VLAN 10, 20 in the other end as well, but the backbone or trunk accommodating both VLAN 10, 20, 30 related traffic. Right? Then trunking concept. So with that, trunking is a physical and logical connection between two switches across traffic is travel. It is single transmission channel between 2 points. Those points are usually switching centers. You can understand that, but I'm not going to further elaborate on that. If you have a question, you can raise. In the context of the VLAN switching environment, a trunk is point-to-point link that supports several VLANs. In the context of the VLAN switching environment, trunk is a point-to-point link that supports the several VLANs. Once you look into that particular diagram, you can see there's a link in between two switches, but support for multiple VLAN. The purpose of the trunk is to conserve ports when creating a link between two devices implementing the VLAN. That means for when we use the trunking, we have to just use the one extra port. අමතරයට යන port එක. Because we need that slot. We cannot avoid that. Okay, actually this is about VLAN 1. There is a link. VLAN 1, VLAN 2, there is a link. Here also VLAN 1 and 2 separate links, no trunk. Make it the trunk එකක් නැහැ. Switch B, VLAN 1, 2 separate links are there. Right, this is the, I think I will introduce this one, the environment where trunking has not been introduced. Trunking නැති දවස්වල මෙහෙම තමයි කරේ. VLAN trunking කියන concept එක නැති දවසක් තිබ්බනම් ඒ දවස්වල මෙහෙම තමයි කරන්න වෙන්නේ. මොකද switch දෙකක VLAN කියනවා නම් ඒ දෙක කොහොම හරි communicate කරවන්න ඕනේ. මේකෙත් finance people ඉන්නවා, මේකෙත් finance people ඉන්නවා. එහෙනම් එයාලා VLAN 1 එකට දාලා ඒ කට්ටිය අතර communication එකක් හදලා දෙන්න ඕනේ. We can't say no. Without trunking, we can do that in this manner. I think with trunking, it is like this. Without trunking previous way, this with trunking, trunk cable is there, VLAN 1 and 2 are accommodated in this way. Right? Let's go back. We were here. Then figure illustrated two VLANs shares across switches, switch A and switch B. Each switch is using two physical links so that each port carries the traffic for single VLAN. Right, VLAN 1 වලට VLAN 2 වලට cable දෙයක් වෙන වෙනම තිබ්බා. එයාලා වෙන වෙනම තම තමන්ගේ වැඩේ කරගන්න. This is the simplest way of implementing the inter-switch VLAN communication, but it does not scale well. That is the point. That means this point is important in that sense. Purpose of the trunk is to conserve ports when creating a link between the two devices implementing the VLAN. I think conserve is, give me a second. Yeah, saving some ports. When we use the trunk port, that is the point here actually, that when we use the trunk, it saves some ports, right? Just think about that here. To introduce this backbone network, we need 1, 2, 3, 4 ports. But with the use of the trunk, we need only 2 ports. We can save 2 more ports for end devices. We can save 2 more ports for the end devices because of the initiative with the trunk. Here, the backbone network conceive the 4 ports. With the trunk, I will go forward and show you. With this initiative, we can conceive only the 2 ports. මේ trunk concept එකත් එක්ක අපි 2 ports තමයි backbone network එකට ගන්න. Port මේ ඉතුරු වෙන එකත් හරි වාසියක් විදිහට තමයි මෙයාලා introduce කරන්න ඒක හරි. මේකෙදි port 4ක් ඕනේ වුණා. අතෙන්දි port 2යි ඕනේ. ඒ point එකට එන්න තමයි මෙතන මේ point එක තියෙන්නේ. Purpose of the trunk is to conceive ports when creating the link between the two devices implementing the VLANs. Conceive some ports. Right? Each switch is using Yeah, that part we covered. This is simplest way of implementing the inter-switch VLAN communication, but it does not scale well. Yeah, that part also covered because in this case only two. In this case only two. There can be three VLANs, VLAN 10, 20, 30, maybe 40. Four VLANs as well. In that all the cases we have to have one cable for each VLAN. Can we do that? We can simply do that. But with that we need to have separate port for that, at the same time multiple cables for that. Multiple cables. වෙනම cable ඕනේ, වෙනම ports assign කරගන්න ඕනේ. Right. So what I was talking about, VLAN 1, 2 is okay, 4 ports. But when it becomes 3, you need 3 cables and 6 ports. When it becomes 4, you need 4 cables and 8 ports. When it becomes 5, you need 5 cables and 10 ports. So you can understand misuse of the resources or wrong use of the resources in those initiatives. Although it is simplified version, it accommodates the requirement, serve the purpose. It is not the good way of doing that. So definitely we should go with the trunking. That is the discussion towards that. Adding the third VLAN would require the using a 2 additional port, one each connected switches, which I already described. Design is always inefficient in terms of the load sharing. Inefficient in terms of the load sharing. That means what is the situation? Once we introduce the multiple links in between the switches, we just accommodate them equal bandwidth or equal opportunity for them to share. Bandwidth will be shared. But if we just use the one link, then in the previous case, when we have multiple links, some links will be idle. We have allocated the bandwidth. They might not be using. VLAN 1 cable, VLAN 1 related that backbone cable might not communicating any data, but VLAN 2 keep busy, right? But if we have just one link, then we can assign more bandwidth because it is a backbone link and allow to share, right? So in addition, the traffic on the same VLANs may not justify dedicated link. The traffic on the same VLAN may not justify the dedicated link. It means that the same thing. That means once we have this kind of network, one link might not be busy, one link might be busy. But if we just combine and allocate the bandwidth with related to these two links, when one link is not using, it is not a problem because the other one can utilize the available bandwidth as much as it wants. In this case, it is not possible. Even though this one is idle, this link cannot utilize the bandwidth with related to this one because it is a separate link. But if we can just join these two together, then always we can assign the extra bandwidth because it is the trunk, right? Then that bandwidth will be shared in between two. Okay. I think we finished with the previous slide. Yeah. Then trunking will be bundle the multiple virtual links over one physical link by allowing the traffic for several VLANs to travel over the single cable between the switches. That's what we finally want to implement. One link, one physical link, but multiple virtual links, right? One single cable, but multiple virtual cables. With this understand, move forward. Trunking operation. Now you have idea about the trunk. Now how trunk works. Switching table at both ends of the trunk can be used to make port forwarding decision based on the frame destination MAC address. Right? The switching table at the both ends, that means MAC address table, ends of the trunk can be used to make port forwarding decisions based on the frame destination MAC address. It is obvious layer 2 communication happen in that way. Then second point, as the number of VLANs traveling across the trunk increases, as the number of VLANs traveling across the trunk increases, the forwarding decisions become slower and more difficult to manage. Yeah, it is obvious again, because the whatever the forwarding decisions difficult to manage at the end, because large number of communications. The decision process becomes slower because the large switching tables take longer to process. It is also obvious now the actually MAC address table should be there the different VLAN different way. However, this is all about the processing the incoming traffic, because multiple VLAN related traffics are accepting by the switch now. Right? Trunking protocols were developed to efficiently manage the transfer of the frame from different VLAN on the single physical line. The trunking protocol established the agreement for distributing of the frames to the associated port both ends of the trunk. So whatever the communication over the one link, it is there. That means simple stuff. Currently, two types of trunking mechanisms exist: frame filtering and frame tagging. Okay, two approaches. So frame filtering and frame tagging. I think the frame filtering is the one they try to explain here, which is large switching tables take the longer to process. That means large switching tables are there at the switches. Then trunking protocols were developed to efficiently manage the transfer frames from the different VLANs on the single physical lines. That means there are different initiatives to handle the traffic over the trunk link. Trunking protocol established agreement for both distribution of the frame to associated the ports at the end of the trunk. Yeah, that is the agreement. That means at the one end we are doing this for tagging or whatever the framing, then the other end the same thing should be launched, or other end should have the understand about the agreement. So then only extract the information. Right? So frame tagging has been adapted as the standard trunking mechanism by the IEEE. So frame tagging is the common. Frame filtering is also there. Let's move forward with that understand. So frame filtering, switches share address table. This is the backbone. This is the backbone switch. Then both combinedly, port 1, port 2, 3, similar to scheme used by the routers. A filtering table is developed for each switch. Filtering table is developed for each switch. Switch shares the address table information. Table entries are compared with the frames. Switch takes the appropriate actions. Okay, as far as ports and MAC address mapping is there, actually no need to have tagging mechanism. Tagging, just looked into the destination MAC address and put forward. Destination MAC address and put forward, because with the frame, the destination MAC address is available. For that, it is important to maintain the shared MAC address table. With actually this initiative is not so common, so I actually not remember what happened behind. We'll look into the detail. It says port 1, 2, 3, 3. In this case, actually, I think port switch also should be mentioned. This one may be switch A, this one switch B, this two switch A, switch B, switch A, switch B. So there should be another column to specify the switch. Switch, its related port. Sorry, it's about VLAN. VLAN 1, 2, 3. VLAN 1, 2, 3. An address. Yeah, again, switch is required. No, switch is required. We'll see and come back to this image after that. Hereafter, frame tagging is described. So with the frame filtering, not much detail. However, it is similar to that maintaining the routing table or forwarding table at the layer 3 communication. With the layer 3 communication, what we are going to refer, we are just forwarding table port and the range of IP addresses. So here it says VLAN 1 and VLAN 1 related MAC addresses. VLAN 2, its related MAC addresses. VLAN 3, its related MAC addresses. Well, I think, do you have any understand about that frame filtering? Advanced, I cannot find some good resource. Anyway, with the frame filtering related thing, you better find a YouTube video and share with the others, maybe with the Sun or someone, then you can understand about what is happening with the frame filtering. So it simply just refers, as per my intuitive understand, switch just maintain this switch with the VLAN 1. Multiple computers are connected. In this case, 2 computers are connected. So its MAC addresses are there. VLAN 2, 2 computers are connected. Those MAC addresses are there. VLAN 3, 2 computers are connected. Those MAC addresses are there. So that information is maintained. This is called the VLAN database. And that information is shared with the other switch. So that sort of understand I can just say, but not specifically, we just looked into that, right? Because mainly we just looked into the tagging. Because tagging is much more simplified version, no extra burden. Just put the right tag, right? Switches do that. With that, a very simplified way of communication can be launched. Right? Trunky protocol that use a frame tagging mechanism assign an identifier to the frame to make their management easier and to achieve the faster delivery of the frame. Right? Actually, the sports meets the sports different houses, different colors. No? Then you may have different caps. Then with that caps, different houses, uniqueness is there. Although you are running around the playground, with the cap, we can understand you belongs to the particular house. And it's called sport meet දවසට house එකේ පාටට t-shirt එකක් හරි cap එකක් හරි දානවා නම් that is some sort of a tag. ඔයාලා playground එකේ කොහේ හිටියත් house එක දැනගත්ත හැකි cap එකෙන් හරි t-shirt එකෙන්. Right? So easily filter out the traffic in that way. Unique physical link between the two switches is able to carry traffic for any VLANs. Yeah, it is understandable, which we already discussed. In order to achieve this, each frame sent on the link is tagging to identify which VLAN it belongs to. Different tagging scheme exist. Yeah, I can error. Cap එක දාපුවාම tag අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන් කියන කතාව කියන්නේ. මේ different tagging scheme කියන්නේ මේක cap එකකින් කරන්නත් පුළුවන් t-shirt එකකින් කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. Because different tagging සමහර වෙලාවට තව මොකකින් හරි කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. Right, maybe having a flag. Always keep a flag or badge, house badge. Those are the different tagging mechanisms. Finally, everyone can be clearly identified which house that they belong to. Most common tagging scheme for Ethernet segments are listed below: ISL and IEEE 802.1Q. This is Cisco proprietary. This is the common platform for any switch manufacturer. Inter-switch link protocol, ISL, Cisco proprietary one. 1, 2, trunk, 3. VLAN 200, port A, trunk link 3. We'll see what is going to describe so that we can understand there are 4 switches. Trunks are established, red color link. This black color is the access link. Access, switch port mode access. It is the command. Switch port mode trunk. It is the command for configuring these ports. Trunk protocols allow the traveling of frames from the different VLANs to the single physical channel and manage the distribution of the frame according to their assigned VLAN. Right? I think you can understand. Once we have the shared media, we can transmit any data. But tagging mechanism help to identify them separately. In the given network determines how many physical interfaces can be eliminated by implementing the Trunky protocol. That means once we introduce the trunk, we can save some ports. When we have 2 VLAN and we have no trunk, that means we need 2 links for the 2 VLAN and we need 4 ports for connecting them. With the introducing of trunk, we need 1 cable and 2 ports. That's about the eliminating so use of the physical interfaces are reduced with the initiative of the trunk. Yeah, there is example for that. Here actually traditional way using the 1 link for each VLAN, yellow, black and blue. Once we introduce the trunk here, how many links that we can save? Can someone unmute and tell how many links that we can save? Links in between these 2 switches. How many links in between 2 switches? 3.
3 links.
When we introduce the link in between, trunk link in between 2 switches, we need only 1. We can save 2 number of links. Right? Each color represents the different VLAN. Enter the number of physical links we can save. With these combinations or links in between these 2 switches, we can save 2. Links in between these 2 switches, we can save another 2. Altogether, we can save 4 links. So actually, with that, we will just focus about the number of ports as well. With this one, we can save 4 ports, right? 4 ports. In this case, 6 ports. Once we remove 2 links, we can save 4 ports. In this case, 6 ports. Once you use the one link and remove 2 links, we can save 4 ports. Here also same way we can save 4 ports. Altogether we can save 8 ports in this network. Great improvement. In this case, 4 links becomes 1 link. Then 3 links can be saved at the same time 6 ports. Here also 3 links can be saved and 6 ports. Altogether 6 links and 12 ports can be saved. Once network become more and more larger, then obviously we can save more and more ports and links. In this case, what do you think? In this case, how many links we can save? 0, because only 1 link in between the switches. Okay, VLANs and trunking. VLANs and trunking. Let's move forward. VLANs and trunking, specific protocols or rules are used to implement trunking. There are specific protocols or rules because that is a specific communication. Right? Trunking provides an effective method to distribute the VLAN ID information to other switches. Trunking provides an effective method to distribute VLAN IDs information to the other switches. VLAN IDs shared in between the switches. VLAN IDs. Network color, network ID share කරගත්තා වගේ. Layer 3 communication again, you have not much familiar with that, no? Anyway, you may have some understand. Network prefixes are shared in between the routers. Then only we can have some understand about the availability of the network and the one particular segment. Okay. Ekana postal address එක දිහා බලපුවම I would say my address අසංකපතිරණ number 21/14/P/1 Jayamawati Isrupura Anuradhapura. That is my address. So if someone want to write me, they will use that address. By looking at that address, they have some understand this letter should be forwarded in this direction. Someone may be from number 15, whatever the road, goal. Then that letter should be directed towards the goal. Like that, once we have the tagging mechanisms, we can actually, especially networking, so even both VLAN, once we have the VLAN ID or something, then we can have some intuitive understand where that thing should be directed. Actually, in our MAC address table or forwarding table, we have the record for that. Right? We will, at the moment, we will focus only about the MAC address table. That record is there. Then based on that, we just identify the port and forward towards that. Frame tagging is the way to implement VLANs according to the IEEE standard. VLAN frame tagging is an approach that has been specifically developed for switching communication, switched communication. That means layer 2 communication. Frame tagging places a unique identifier in the header of each frame as it is forwarded throughout the network backbone. And it is unique, always unique. Unique, actually unique for the different VLAN, like a cap or t-shirt for your house in the house meet. So with that VLAN, particular VLAN can be identified. Then once a network reach, data frame reach to the destination switch, then switch off the cap of the tag එක අයින් කරනවා, put forward to the particular VLAN. Put forward to the particular VLAN. Once switch receive that, based on that tag or cap, we can understand this bugger belongs to this VLAN. Then forward to that VLAN by removing the tag. VLAN එකට ගියාට පස්සේ tag එක ඕනේ නැහැ. house එක ඇතුළට ඇති cap එක ඕනේ නැහැ. house එකේ ඉන්නේ house එකෙන් එළියට ඇති තමයි cap එක ඕනේ. Some sort of that understand. Identifier is understood and examined by the each switch before any broadcast or transmission. Identifier is understood and examined each switch before any broadcast or transmission are made to the other switches, routers, and station devices. Always look into the tag before doing any initiative. When the frame exists, the network backbone, the switch removes the identifier before the frame is transmitted to the target end station. When the frame exists, the network backbone, the switch removes the identifier because the frame is transmitted to the target end state. Once the particular destination switch receive the frame, now frame is already tagged. That tag is used to find out the particular VLAN. Once the particular VLAN is identified, remove the tag and put forward for the particular VLAN. That is the initiate. Frame tagging function at the layer 2 and require the little processing and administration overhead. Frame tagging functions at the layer 2 and the requires little processing or administration overhead. Obviously, adding tag and removing the tag extra work. It is important to understand that trunk link does not belong to the specific VLAN. At the same time, you have to understand trunk is not on to VLAN 10 or VLAN 20 or VLAN 30. It is a trunk. Trunk is facilitating multiple VLAN related communication. The responsibility of the trunk link is to act as the conduits for the VLAN between the switches and the routers. Obviously, actually, that traffic will not go through the routers, but router end is the one of the end or gateway for the VLAN communication. In the VLAN communication, if we just think over Internetwork communication, anyway, router just bypass this stuff, but this is specific for VLAN. Tagging is specific for layer 2 communication. If router involved, by that time, router is receiving the particular VLAN or tagging related frames, but router is not bypass or pass the such traffic through the router. Switches විතරයි bypass කරන්නේ. Switches විතරයි මේ tagging mechanism එක තියාගෙන. Okay. So these are the different ways of doing tagging. Encapsulation is there only with the ISL. That might be tricky because of the security improvement. Tagging insertion into frames, yes, only with the 8201Q. Media is Ethernet for I802.1Q and ISL. This is for FDDI and ATA. Some understand. So, ISL is a protocol that maintains VLAN information as traffic flows between the switches. Right? So, it is obvious ISL protocol or what else protocol should have some understanding about the VLAN information. So VLAN informations are maintained based on the traffic that it just currently use. I think unlearn stuff also maybe happen similar to the MAC address tables. After some time, something will be unlearned. With ISL, Ethernet frames is encapsulated with the header that contain the VLAN ID. There is a header is contained with the VLAN ID. I think when we compare with the 802.1Q and ISL, this is just use the encapsulation. This is use the tagging. That is the difference. Okay, tagging කිව්වත් encapsulation කිව්වත් අන්තිමට කරන්නේ මේ encapsulate කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම envelope එකේ කතාවයි කියන්නේ. ඇත්තටම ඇතුළට දාලා මොකකින් හරි වහනවනේ encapsulate කියන්නේ. එතකොට මුකුත් පේන්නේ නැහැ. tagging කියන්නේ frame එකේ හැමම තියෙන ඉස්සරහට prefix එකක් add කරනවා. දෙකේ චූටි වෙනසක් තියෙන encapsulation tagging කියන එකේ. නමුත් just serve the same purpose, right? Encapsulate කියන්නේ නිකන් වහලා දානවනේ envelope එකේ letter එක දැම්මම පේන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ එක operation ඒක තමයි IS වලින් කරන්නේ encapsulate cover කරන. tagging කියන්නේ ඉස්සරහට කෙලින්ම තව data ටිකක් add කරන prefix එකක් විදියට. cap එකක් දානවා කියලා mean කරේ. right? Trunking implementation. To create or configure the VLAN trunk on the Cisco ISO command-based switch, configure port is first as a trunk, then specify the trunk encapsulation with the following commands. Switch port mode trunk, yeah. Switch port mode trunk, switch trunk encapsulate ISL. If you want to configure it for the ISL. Switch port mode trunk is the common command. The other second command will be different based on the different protocol. In this case, switch port trunk encapsulation ISL. Just try it. I think in the simulation environment, it will work sometime because we are using the Cisco simulation environment. So you can try it. So trunking implementation before attempting to configure VLAN trunk on a port, determine what encapsulation the port can support. This can be done using the show port capabilities command. So different ports should support for different encapsulation. So you may use the show port capabilities command. Then you can find trunk encapsulation type is 802.1Q. How you set enable? Set trunk 2/1 on .1Q. That is the command. That is the command, right? With that, IEEE version will be enabled. In this case, ISL is not there. Verify that trunking has been configured and verify the settings by using the show trunk. I think that outcome also should be there, show trunk. With that, you can find some cases ISL is enabled. Yeah, ISA. You can try it yourself. Figure below shows the trunking modes available for fast Ethernet and gigabit Ethernet. Yeah, this one, it is import. This is all about the whatever the trunk link has two ends. If we two are connected as two switches, in my end and your end, how the ends should be configured. Modes, there are multiple modes: on, off, desirable, auto, and negotiation. Based on these modes on the two ends, then things will be different. Once mode is on, this mode puts the port into the permanent trunking. That means my end trunk port is on, your end trunk port is on. This mode puts the port into permanent trunk. This port becomes the trunk port even if the neighboring port does not agree to change. The state does not allow for the negotiation of the encapsulation type. You must therefore specify the encapsulation in the configuration. So once my end is on, then obviously you should also get into that mode, allowing trunk configuration in the particular mode. So I will just introduce ISL, then you also have to use the ISL in your end. If you introduce on stage and ISL, then I have to use always on in my end and use the ISL as you already configured for that. Everybody like a marriage, husband and wife, how they are just having better relationship towards the long journey, right? Marriage is not just short thing. So if husband is saying on, then wife is also on. They agreed how they are going to communicate. That is the encapsulation type. Off means the mode puts the port into the permanent non-trunking mode and negotiate to convert the link into a non-trunk. Convert link into a non-trunk. The port becomes the non-trunk port even if the negotiating port does not agree to the change. With confidence, right? We'll just read through that. This mode puts the port into the permanent non-trunking mode. It is in the non-trunk. Negotiate to convert link into the non-trunk link. Non-trunking mode එකේ ඉන්නවනම් link එකක් වෙන්න බෑ නේද trunk වෙන්න ඕනේ. The port because non-trunk port even if the negotiation port does not agree to that means that port permanently in the non-trunk mode. අපිට ඒ වගේ port trunk එකක් කරන්න බෑ කියන එක තමයි කියන්නේ. Right? Then port 1 to 24 port 24ක් තියෙනවානේ. Maybe we specify particular ports cannot be used as a trunk. Maybe port first two only used for the trunk, the others are not for the trunk. Then you can put 3 to 24 all the ports in the off mode. Those are only for the users. Those are configured. Those can be configured only for the specific VLAN, not for the trunk. Switch port mode trunk command cannot be used in that sense. Switch port mode access can be used in that sense. Likewise, different situations are explained. So actually, no need to remember these things by heart because this situation might be changed. But you should have some understand about having these because when you want, you should be able to read the configurations or specifications and understand what is actually happening with the switch. And with that understand, we will move. Okay, my 4 VLANs are there. Ports are allocated for different 4 VLANs. I think you guys can do this practical, no? I think I have already shared the lecture slides with you.
Yes.
Yeah, then up to this, I will stop for today. We have covered around 2 hours, but remaining 1 hour, I will just keep the link as it is, although I'm leaving. You better do this one. 77. Yeah, from here on. 62 to 77, the one practical. You better try it yourself. I think, yeah, because I have to attend another important work. Yeah. Can you guys do that? Idasum, Tarinde, Tenil.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. First put the attendance, then someone can share the screen and start doing that. I will stay some time for you to put the attendance. Then I may leave, but you can continue till 10 o'clock. Once you finish, you can quit. Okay. Thank you, guys. Then we will meet hopefully this Thursday evening. But actually, I'm also not push very much as we have some more time. As I heard, examination will be scheduled at the Hindu College very soon. Still discussions are going on in the university. That thing will not be happen because of the COVID center and there are some other issues. So you better get ready. Hopefully semester 2 examination will be happen first. Yeah, as far as we have enough space at the Hindu College, we can conduct many exams at once. No need to wait till other faculty finish or something like that. We can get the halls and do the exam so quickly. That thing will be happen. Online examinations, they are not going to consider that. That is the thing. So Hindu College, you may have the exam very soon. Firstly, semester 2, then semester 3. I'm not sure whether it just happened one after the other, but technically it is possible. Technically it is possible. So better get ready. What we have to do remaining in this module, finish with this session first. Then time to time I gave you the lab sheets, but I didn't get your demonstration. We'll do that part as an assignment. So you better thorough with the lab sheets. So you will be evaluated for the continuous assessment marks based on your demonstration. One by one, I'm demonstrate over the Zoom. For that, actually, you have to wait because next week I'm off. I'm not in the uni. So next week I would not be able to conduct the lectures. This Thursday we will be meeting hopefully. For this by this Thursday we will be finishing hopefully this set of slides, because at the end of this set of slides some Trunky Protocol stuff also there. So I think we can cover it by this Thursday. Then we have to cover only the demonstration part. So we will do that week after next week. Yeah. that is the plan. That is the plan. Don't worry. So I missed some sessions last 2 weeks. I would be able to cover the things without interrupting your examination and any other things. If examination comes soon, we will postpone the demonstration. We will take the demonstration later. Don't worry. I can understand with the examination you might be busy, but keep ready for the demonstration as well. Okay, then over to Tarinder, Vidasun, Prabhat, and others to contribute for the. Actually, I can make the breakout rooms if you want.